love murder just as much as the next guy, but there have been some individuals who say murder is morally wrong and it's against the law to end someone else's life. And you know what? Fine. Just this once, I'll listen to the woke mob, and we'll see if it's possible to beat Hollow Knight as a pacifist. Rules are pretty simple actually. I can't murder anything, but obviously that would be impossible since Team Cherry are a bunch of bloodthirsty warmongers who want to see everybody you love die. So this will just be a minimum murders run. Now on to the challenge. It's pretty easy to jump over all the enemies in King's Pass. I obviously talked earlier or else the run would be invalid. And then we fall into the Forgotten Crossroads. This area is the same as King's Pass until the first arena, where a terrible accident happened. A spike fell from the ceiling and sent the poor innocent Aspid to the afterlife. Me, not wanting for such a tragedy to occur again, went to the other ceiling spike and attempted to destroy it mid-fall, but unbeknownst to me, it just went flying through 2 more Aspids. And this horrifying experience has led to 1 death witnessed and 2 counts of manslaughter. If only there was another way to do this arena. Oh well, manslaughter isn't murder, so let's just get on with it. As we sit on this bench, let us ponder for a bit. How the heck do we get out of Crossroads? There are a few ways we obviously can't go at this time, so I'll just cross them off without talking about them anymore. The normal way would require 2 kills, the Elder Balder in the Ancestral Mound and the one right before Greenpath. But not the False Knight, since you can just break the wall on the left side of the arena to skip the fight. Going the Blue Lake route would require the premature end of the Grozmother and the death of a Shade, so that's 2 kills again. If you try to go to the Fungal Waste with the Stall Ball, that would require only 1 kill, but to make any progress in the Funny Mushroom place, I would need to do a Shade skip, which would require me killing it. Then there are the Crystal Peaks, which we can make it to with only 1 murder, and that is the Grozmother. The children can be spared if you just bench warp when they pop out of her, but the only way we can go in the Crystal Peaks is to the Resting Grounds, where all we'd get is just the Dream Knell and the Dream Shield. But let me put the Dream Shield in a different context. If, say, a magical weapon one day started to orbit you and it just happened to hurt anything it came in contact with, could that really be called murder? Your Honor, my client has no control over the shield, and thus should not be considered responsible over the harm it inflicts on others. And now that you agree with my flawless reasoning, how could we use this flying safety hazard to our advantage? It's really quite simple. We can now make it to Greenpath with only 1 murder, because all I did near that boulder was just walk back and forward and every once in a while swing my nail in the air, and the creature just happened to bite the dust while I was doing almost nothing. But I skipped over one teensy tiny detail. We need Lumify Lantern to get to the peaks, and that needs 1,800 Geo. And most people know that Geo gathering ain't exactly the most peaceful of activities. I've gotten 475 Geo from non-violent means. Geo Rocks and Grubs. We get 50 from Grozmother, but that leaves 1,325 we have to get from enemies. And you can see how that could be problematic in a pacifist challenge. But there is a way. You ever notice how whenever the False Knight drops into the arena, a few husks perish? And you ever notice how they drop Geo? And you ever notice how the knight that is false does that every time you restart the fight? Well, they also drop a humble 10 Geo, and that means we would need to see 399 husks die for us to get enough Geo for the lantern. I will put these deaths on a separate counter to not massively balloon the current count. But keep in mind that this was 100% the False Knight's fault, and this time we are completely innocent. After that 4-hour grind, and you better appreciate me skipping over most of it, we can go to the Gruzmother and finish it as quickly as possible, so it's slightly more humane. Save Sly, and finally we can purchase the Lumafly Lantern. It's pretty easy to make it through the place with the crystals without hurting anything. And then we just fall into the resting grounds and get the dreamshield. And off to Greenpath we go. Greenpath really is no problem, since we can skip most of it by pogoing a singular enemy, and it's pretty easy to avoid hurting things if I don't have the dreamshield equipped. And then appears the Moss Knight, which we just cannot skip. The only way we could avoid it is with Mantis Claw, and that still needs a shade skip to get. But we have the Dreamshield now, so at least the Moss Knight isn't a murder. Then it's just a non-eventful walk to Hornet, which usually isn't a hard boss fight, and it still isn't one. It just takes long. Wait, Hornet doesn't die after this fight. After we got Mothwing Cloak, the travel to the Mantis Claw was effortless. The only forced arena in the fungal wastes is the two big mushrooms, which could be skipped by just entering the wastes through the crossroads. And the Mantis Lords don't die when you defeat them in the fight. Now, because you're stupid, you're probably wondering, why in the honkle did we need to defeat the Mantis Lords? To get Deepnest out of the way immediately, because all we need there is Tram Pass, which requires no death. And we already had Lantern, so we could acquire Weaver Song, which was guarded by a ferocious stalking devout, which I could just jump over very easily. Now, let me put Weaver Song in a different context for you. If, say, 3 hooligans one day started following you and started to murder anything and anyone that came close to you, would that really be your fault? Clearly, Your Honor, this is a case where my client is the victim, because they were rightfully too scared of these violent spiders to attempt to leave their vicinity. The Weaver's Den itself only has like 2 enemies, so that was no problem. I then made it to the distant village without further issue. Yup, that's me. You're probably wondering how you may think it's cowardly to quit to the menu instead of accepting the death. And getting back to the village wasn't difficult because I actually played this game quite a few times before. Though I did pull a whoopsie daisy when I sat on the untrustworthy bench. I forgot to equip the Dreamshield. And there was a stalking devout I had to kill to proceed in the beast's den. You just cannot damage boost past it. Lord knows I tried. So, even though I killed this one with my nail, I'll just count it as a death witnessed, because I'm not willing to grind Geo for 4 hours just because of one small whoopsie daisy. And speaking of not wanting to restart the whole game, I'm gonna add a counter for unnecessary kills. These are murders that add absolutely nothing to the progression and are only in this run because of my own massive skill issue. It's gonna be mostly shade kills for when I die. If you have a problem with that, there is a dislike button right under this video. There was another impassable stalking devout right before Hera, but we could just equip the Dreamshield for that one. When we reach Hera, an interesting question arises. Does this count as a kill? Now, the Dreamers are obviously in a coma-ish state. All we do is just dream nail their body, and then just smack their dream self a bit. But when we wake up, the body is gone completely. Now, Rufus's dull nail is strong, but I don't think it's strong enough to completely erase a body from existence. And we clearly see that it wakes up on the ground after nailing the Dreamer. So I feel it's safe to say the Dreamers just disappeared under mysterious circumstances, which we may or may not have had a hand in. With Tram Pass, it's a real smooth ride to get to the second part of the city. But I forgot that the Watcher Knights suck, so I'm just getting the Crystal Heart instead, which was an even smoother ride because of how easy this game is. It literally took like 5 minutes and the peaks had no mandatory arenas. With Crystal Dash we could make it to Fog Canyon, which was a very difficult area for this challenge, because of how tempting it was to destroy every last one of those jellyfish bastards. But it wasn't hard to make it to the Teacher's Archives. Making it to Umu with the Dreamshield was a massive pain, because of how fragile those little flying shits are. The Umu boss fight itself was just straight up bad. Usually I get jump scared by it, then wait around for Quirrell to do his job and then just kill it immediately. But here, with the rock bottom damage of the dreamshield, this fight is a damn marathon. And this fight is also incredibly irritating without the double jump. So it's both a boring fight and an annoying one. My patience for bad boss fights is very low. So I decided to finally upgrade my name to make the dreamshield's damage better. And the only pale ore I could acquire without any kills was the Crystal Peak. It was the one in Crystal Peak. Guess you could say my damage output has peaked early. But the Umu boss fight kept on being bad and lame. So even though this fight is more than possible with the dreamshield, I decided to kill it with my nail. And like, it's a fucking jellyfish, it's barely even live. All they do in real life is just exist in water and die. And this one isn't even in water, like, it's a fucking jelly, that's their entire... So, this is a death witnessed. Like I said previously, if you have a problem with it, dislike button. Then Monomon is just a crystal dash away from disappearing under mysterious circumstances. And then it's just the Watcher Knights left to defeat, which are going to take a long time with my current equipment. I didn't want it to take a while, so I started getting any charm I could peacefully. Not because they'd actually be useful, but be able to buy more charm notches. So I could have Dreamshield and Weaver Song equipped at the same time. I fought Mossy because it's just 4 of those little buggers in a big bush, and you can't even hurt them after the fight. This doesn't count. Or this. Now that I'm properly prepared, it's time to beat the Watcher Knights. First try. The Grub Song with Weaver Song synergy made the fight ridiculously easy, as I could just focus on dodging and healing with the free soul I get from the Weaver. With all the dreamers having suddenly disappeared, we could go to the egg now. And it will be open, and the end of the game will be in there. The Hollow Knight was beaten first try also. God, I'm just too good at video games. I mean, holy! It was about the same as the Watcher Knights. I just got free soul from the spiders and just focused on dodging. Slightly anticlimactic, but oh well, at least now I have beaten Hollow Knight as a pacifist. What do you mean somebody's already done a pacifist challenge? Okay, that's fine. That's fine. They only got the regular ending. And that's why this whole video has been about me actually getting the Dream No More ending as a pacifist. What we needed for the ending with the moth is some essence, some movement items, and just a single charm. I would obviously get all the movement items first, because that would make things way easier. The walk to the broken vessel was annoying like always, but didn't need any murder. The fight itself was fun, but of no challenge. Also, the infected balloons don't count, because they're just balloons. Making it to Hornet 2 Horn harder wasn't difficult and could be done completely peacefully. And Hornet doesn't die in the Kingdom's Edge fight either. The Abyss has no mandatory kills, but the Lighthouse part was like it usually is. I have the Shade Cloak now, which is nice. Now on to the Dream Juice collection. When it comes to essence, there are only violent means to acquire it. Killing ghosts. But I don't believe in ghosts. And it's impossible for a thing that doesn't exist to die. So, to make sure nobody else makes a silly mistake of believing that ghosts do indeed exist, I'll destroy every last one of them. This is the only way it can be done, and this is the only way it should be done. Zero really lived up to his name and offered zero challenge to me. Gorb was finally ascended. When I said every last one, I meant it. No eyes, more like Boragon. I can't give up. Elder Who, more like Elder Who asked. O Galleon, now dawns thy reckoning. The Gravediggers stood no chance, the loser, Lamau. And Markoth. Nobody will think this one is unjustified. And clearing out the Spirit's Glade was just fun. I would really recommend doing it if you haven't already. Just to be safe, you know? The Lost Kin might at first seem like just a dream, which would be fine for this challenge anyways, but aha! Look, it's a ghost now! The fight itself was nothing special, did it first try. I wanted to fight the White Defender for some more essence, but I forgot I needed Desolate Dive for it. Then it was time for Queen's Gardens, because there was no other way to get the essence without killing actual living things. Soulmaster or False Knight, for their dream version. Getting there was awful, because I had to go through Fog Canyon again. I mean, just look at how murderable all those Uomas and Owos are. We have Shade Cloak, so it's quite simple to enter the Queen's Gardens through that one entrance. The flying mantises are absolute bastards, especially when I'm not allowed to fight back against them. There was an arena almost immediately, which could be skipped by going through the Deepnest entrance to the gardens, though it did have a unforeseen consequence. I couldn't access that one ghost couple in the Cornifer room, so they will be safe for now. Okay, this arena we couldn't skip. Also, I'm allowed to destroy the corpses of those spiky bush bugs. By the way, I'm not counting the kills and attempts I die in, because I want to know what's the minimum murders and not what's the maximum skill issue I can have. I decided to just try to get the White Lady out of the way while I was in the area. I just really like the Traitor Lord fight. It's so simple yet so fun. So the walk to Marmu was pretty annoying because of the spider. And Marmu is barely even a boss fight. I hope to get all the remaining essence I need from Whispering Roots. Fun fact, the door to the Ancestral Mound is automatically opened when the crossroads get infected. The lever even stays on flicked, how neat! Another fun fact, you can't leave the Ancestral Mound without destroying the Elder Balder that resides there. So obviously this is a mistake, but it was a mistake for learning and science. I would mark this as a unnecessary kill, but the Vengeful Spirit is a percentage. I'll just mark it as the Elder Balder in the Ancestral Mound, and I just won't use the Vengeful Spirit for anything else. I got the rest of the essence needed without any more incidents, and after all that essence collecting I can finally get on going to the White Palace. The first guard is actually quite tricky because you usually get jump scared by it and then kill it immediately, but now I had to actually dodge its attacks and... Wait, this is a dream. Now that we have the better half of the Pell Charm, back to the Traitor Lord we go. Again, I am not counting the kills and attempts I die in. Dealing with the mantises before the Lord wasn't hard, but it sure was tedious. I was genuinely surprised when the Traitor Lord fight ended because of how long it was taking. Now that we have completed the King's Soul, we could get the Void Heart, go to the Eng, and win. But I did the Grim Troop DLC first, because of our Ghost Crusade, remember? One of the floating dudes needed a kill to get to, and that was the arena before the Soul Sanctum. But I didn't even equip the dreamshield, I just straight up murdered that spell sister with my nail. Did I forget I was doing a pacifist challenge? Was I stupid? This is just baffling, but it also wasn't necessary at all for this challenge run. So I'll just mark it as the spell sister right before the Soul Sanctum, and I'll add a skill issue counter as well. Anyways, the floating guys from the fetch quest part of the Grim Troop DLC don't die when you attack them. Maybe. I don't fucking know the Grim Troop lore. I don't even know if Nightmare King Grim is a ghost. I'm just banishing them to be safe. And regular Grim doesn't die in his fight. I could move on to getting the Void Heart, which I got completely peacefully. Now we could fight the Big Moth. I could freely attack the Hollow Knight because getting to the Radiance did not require its death. But I did forget one very important thing. Now we could get back to the Radiance. And the Radiance was pretty gosh dang difficult. Mostly because I couldn't attack her and the Weaverlings are almost useless in this fight. So this is a straight up marathon. At least it isn't a dumbass jellyfish. Now, this was getting pretty boring, because I was at it for 2 hours now, and haven't even gotten to the second phase yet, so I'll just beat her with my nail. And I'm pretty sure you need to land the final blow on the Radiance yourself with the nail. So, it would be a murder anyway. And looking at the second phase, yeah, this would have taken ages with only the Weaverlings at Dreamshield. And unfortunately, I was right. But at least now we have beaten the true ending of Hollow Knight with only 2 murders. You have got to be fucking kidding me. Time to do Embrace the Void ending? No. Just no. Also now, since technically the challenge is over, I could finally kill that ghost.